This review is another one that has been in the queue for a long time, but unlike others, it's not because I'm a horrible person, but because it's one that requires searching high and low to find one that fits the tough criteria that was for this one. And I'll tell you what that is when we get to the end so you can see how it applied. For now, enjoy this lovely opening. Voyager crashed and buried under the ice. I didn't expect this ending for it, really. I always figured, well, that the year of hell ending for Voyager was how it would always wind up, no matter what the timeline. Crew was probably surprised, too. I bet they figured that being encased in ice for all eternity was a fate too optimistic to hope for. The two come across the scene are Chakotay and Harry Kim, the only survivors. Yeah, figures, even when it comes to a merciful death, Harry can draw the short straw. Voyager crashed here. In fact, 6 decks have been compressed into one, but this is television, so the bodies are all just people lying there covered in frost. But one thing I have to say about Timeless, shit really came together. LeVar Burton directed, who, in addition to being an award-winning actor, producer, and even getting a Grammy, is currently on the board for the Directors Guild of America, as opposed to the guy who directed Nemesis and kept calling him Laverne and hasn't been allowed to direct since. So you can see the first place where things go right. Timeless is the 100th episode and a bit of a celebration, so Braga and Minosky put together a nice, tight script, and Burton does a fantastic job of capturing it. You could probably already sense the atmosphere here, and he worked with Garrett Wang so that he gave his most standout performance of the series. Wang freely admits that Burton really helped him to capture the role, and Wang, of course, gets credit for delivering on it. In short, for once, everything went right. And that's what makes this so ironic, because the plot of the episode is where everything went wrong. Like so many, Chakotay wants Seven's body. Unlike most of them, this is despite the fact that she's dead. After that, he joins Harry when he reactivates the Doctor, who is naturally downing a bottle of Whiskey Tango Foxtrot at the sight of all this, so Chakotay explains.
We're here to change history.
Step 1, of course, kill Hitler. Back in the present, relatively speaking, a slow-motion celebration is underway as they celebrate now reaching the point where they can be syndicated.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
People of Melitor 5, as you lay prostrate before me, your cities burning, your streets covered in blood and ash. Crap, these are the wrong note cards. I just have to wing it. Crew of Voyager, as you lay prostrate before me. The crew has put together a new form of propulsion based on Seven's Borg transwarp knowledge, quantum slipstream technology from a swollen-headed alien, and of course, magic crystals. That's barely a joke. The whole thing requires a special crystal that has never been mentioned before or since, and is the reason that there is pressure to do this quickly. But this could really be it, the way home that they've been searching for. Really, we mean it this time technology.
They'll probably nominate us for the Cochrane Medal of Honor.
I'll start working on my acceptance speech.
Members of the Daystrom Institute, as you lay prostrate. The party goes well enough. Neelix pesters people, of course, and Seven gets drunk from synthahol and begins babbling incoherently at the Doctor. Borg, you damn it! Prepare to be stimulated! Feudalism is resilience! Well, we're through the looking glass now, people, because at the party, Tom is the one who is working instead of celebrating, and Harry is the one who's relaxed. Pantomiming the appearance of relaxation, even as his soul is eternally facing an abyss that mocks his dreams and laughs at his tears and forever promises that his every attempt to find joy will turn to dust in his hands and ash in his mouth and a rather nasty itch in his most intimate places. Tom's working because he has bad news.
I think we built an Edsel. A what?
What she looked like. Do you think she'll like me? Wait, forget that. Do you think she could pretend to like me?
A lemon. A disaster waiting to happen.
It's called UPN. Well, Tom has done his calculations because, as we've established, he's an authority on so much stuff his nickname is Ibid, and he's determined that this new engine has a chance to drop them out of Slipstream and kill them all. So he runs a simulation with Harry. Again, now is when they're running simulations and discovering it kills you. You say what you will about Threshold, and God knows there is so much that can be said. At least they ran it through a simulator first, and that was with something that wasn't actually possible. But the tests are conclusive. This is going to kill them all. So they tell the senior staff, and Chakotay says they have no choice but to cancel. But Tom says Harry has an idea that, in his expert opinion on everything, might just work.
It's tricky, but I think it could work. The trouble begins about 17 seconds into the flight. The phase variance kicks in, and the slipstream becomes unstable.
Ah, so you only fly for, say, 12 seconds at a time and then shut it down? You make baby steps back home?
What we need is someone in a shuttle to ride the rapids in front of Voyager.
Yes. They could map the threshold of the Slipstream as it's forming and send the phase corrections back to us. That is a great idea, Harry.
Or we could technobabble a solution where if something goes slightly wrong, everybody dies a horrible death. Well, some are naturally hesitant with this plan, but Harry insists that it's now or never. Their magic crystals are going to turn to fairy dust soon if they mothball this, so they won't get another chance for years. Jimmy considers it, and over dinner tells Chakotay she's decided to go with it, even though he thinks that, sound theory or no, too much could go wrong.
We can find another way home. We've waited this long.
Long enough. We've waited long enough.
This actually, shockingly, fits in with how Janeway had been introduced this season with Night, where she was cut off from the crew emotionally and lamenting her decision back in Caretaker not to use the array, something she insists on being true, no matter how many fans keep insisting to me that she couldn't have actually done it. Wow, she sure seems to be going out of her way to maintain the facade that they're all stranded out here because it was her decision and not because she had no choice. Anyway, Janeway says it's a big risk, but they're going to take it. And then the episode gently reminds us of how it's going to turn out by fading from the present to the future to show the pad now covered in frost, a sign that they've failed and voided this pad's warranty. We learn that it's been 15 years since it happened, that Harry and Chakotay were the only survivors who made it back to Earth. They tried to go looking for Voyager, but it was hopeless. But of course, Harry's obsessive, so 15 years later they're going to try this. I'd like to take credit for planning this, but this is just a creepy coincidence. 15 years ago, 1998, was actually when this episode came out. It was also the very first episode of the Opinionated Voyager episode guide, also in 1988. So believe me, this is a long, long time, 15 years. I mean, 1998, what was going on then? Yeah, what is it, Steve? Hey, wanted to thank you again for that sweet, sweet deal on Pix. Yeah. Glad you're putting it to real good use. We were hoping to use it to explore concepts never achievable in film. You make frickin' babes in Toyland and punks of ants. What do you want? Look, I know you're unhappy about how Pixar's a success and that we're working with Disney now. Yeah, traitor. It'll be a cold day in hell before I work with Disney. So I want to give you a chance to get in on the same kind of great deal, to get in on the ground floor of this new project of mine. See, these guys, they're at Fingerworks here, just started up with this touchscreen technology. If we bought them out, yeah, that sounds real fun, Steve, but I'm a little busy making The Phantom Menace, a.k.a. the greatest movie ever made. And we're all very excited about that, George, but just think, we could have a phone with a touchscreen. It'll be huge. Sure, Steve, yeah. I'm going to invest in your super duper phone. That's where the future is. Listen, I don't want to keep you from your hemp tasting contest or whatever it is you're up to right now. So I'm going to let you go and get back to working on my speeches for all the Oscars I'm about to win, okay? Harry explains what went wrong, and we start to see that his brusqueness in rescuing the doctor wasn't just pressure. He's a different person after all those years of guilt, a person who's, well, he's no longer Mr. 50 Shades of Beige. He's racked by guilt over the cost of his mistake and the fact that it allowed him to get home. And he's a bit broken, yet still committed. Now they put together their plan to save Voyager by ensuring that the crash didn't happen. They brought Seven's body so that they could learn how to access her interplexing beacon and learn when the accident happened, so they can send back the correct figures to avoid the accident. Of course, when she actually died isn't very helpful. You don't know how long it took between the engine failure and the crash. You could wind up sending Seven the figures that would have saved her even as she lay dying on the floor. They beam down to Voyager later and start accessing the computer, so maybe this is all just to make the doc have to poke around in Seven's skull. Anyway, the doctor wants to know how this will help. Well,
A Borg temporal transmitter.
Yep, the Borg have the ability to communicate across time. That's why they never, ever lose. Ever. But now Starfleet's after them, as Tessa, Chakotay's significant other, reports that one is going to be here in hours. Doc naturally wants to know why she's here.
They're having sex.
Don't look at me, I know it's true, because I watch them sometimes. Sometimes I imagine I'm the pillow and part of their sticky union. Get cracking, Doc! So the obvious point now is that she is ensuring that this reality never happens, but this all makes sense when you think about it. Chakotay knew how Janeway sorted out their problem back in Scorpion.
What if I made an appeal to the devil?
Yes, I have the power to restore the Voyager crew to life, thanks to this Borg temporal whatchamajigger. But I want something from you. You want to assimilate us. No. I want that which gives you joy, that which sustains you in your moments of greatest despair, the source not of your power, but of your strength, your happiness, your dreams, and your passion. I want your love. I want your marriage. We're not married. Ha ha! It's already working! All we really need is the surprise reveal about a child for this to be one more day. And if you are never married, then you will never conceive your temporally displaced son, Harry Kim! So if we do this, I'll never have existed? Yes! Oh God, this was so much to hope for! Dad, do this, or I'm killing you! Paradoxes be damned! But standing in the way of this plan is someone very few can thwart, yes, the director. Captain Geordi LaForge offers them a deal from the Federation Council. Stand down and give them the Borg technology, and the charges will be dropped. Well, he says the charges of conspiracy. I'm assuming that it's understood that means all the charges. Otherwise, with the 2 counts of high treason, that's a pretty shit offer. That's like saying, you'll still be tortured to death, but we promise we'll skip the eye gouging. He may be on the side of the man here, but as Geordi points out, he's got his own crew to protect. So if they refuse, he's going to have to take them down. And the interesting thing about this conflict is that you can argue who is really in the right. Harry's inability to let his mistakes go after so long is just as much the characteristic of a tragic villain as it is a tragic hero. He's willing to alter the destiny of countless people solely because he can't live with his guilt. They're on the edge of the Alpha Quadrant that is close to the Delta Quadrant. That means that in 15 years, the Federation has technology to make traveling that far practical. And that plus their accolades suggest that this tech was refined and made at least something useful out of it. And greater speed no doubt improves the lives of billions in incalculable ways. Point is, Harry is not the hero simply because he's a main character or that this is to help his old crew. That's a point of view. And with Geordi on the other side, we see now that this is not so black and white. 2 good guys are now about to fight over this issue. And what I especially like is that they're doing with Harry what they generally refuse to do with Janeway. His position is debatable. His guilt over what happened because of his choice is palatable. And we see every sign that he is a wounded man filled with cynicism. We are allowed to look at this situation objectively and decide whether or not he is in the right, rather than having the rightness shoved down our throats. As the Delta Flyer is getting bashed around in the future, in the present they're making the run, but we see Harry screw it up, and that's that. But future Harry now sends the corrections, and those are wrong too, poor dumb bastard. You've committed 2 counts of treason and convinced the doctor to go rummaging around in one of your love interest's broken skulls, all for nothing. And the universe watches and laughs its mocking laugh again at your inability to reach for redemption without it shriveling away at your very touch. So things are so bad, they're going to have to try to land. This is back in Voyager, I mean. But that works out to being more of a crash, and that's that for them. And to make it worse, the Delta Flyer is in serious trouble.
Can you eject the core?
No, the emergency systems are offline.
Of course they'd be. The last thing you'd expect in an emergency is for emergency systems to work. That'd be like expecting firemen to show up when your house is on fire. Harry starts to lose it, but Doc convinces him that he could at least save their lives even if he can't bring them home. So he does this thanks to the doctor's mobile emitter, and right before the Delta Flyer blows itself up, so Voyager exits the Slipstream intact and 10 years closer to home. Well, let's dismantle that thing then. Harry also gets a message from his future self, who congratulates himself on fixing all that shit for Harry. Yep, even Harry Kim looks down on Harry Kim. Post-episode follow-up. Stupid Neelix's moment is him giving this toy thing to Torres to celebrate their new engine. Apparently staying away while they were working wasn't contribution enough. I said this was one that took a lot of searching. That's because the criteria for this review was to find an episode of any Trek series that focused on a weak character but still managed to score a 10. And I'd almost given up hope on it before I remembered that Timeless allowed Harry Kim to, for a brief moment, not be pitiful. So yes, Timeless receives a score of 10 out of 10. Like I said, everything came together right for this episode, and the decision to keep it a standalone episode instead of a 2-parter kept the story fast and tight. And really, how often can you look at an episode where the primary characters are Chakotay and Harry and say it's interesting? The only criticism I'd make is that Chakotay didn't seem to have changed much, and his relationship with Tessa seems rather tepid. Sure, there was a little discussion and some hand-holding, but it didn't carry the power of just how much they were potentially sacrificing. But aside of that, the story worked well and was a fine way to celebrate this as a milestone.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
I'm afraid.